Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this narration of the web series Very Clever Primitives, taken from Reddit. If you are new to this series, there is a playlist listed down below. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Have you ever been in a situation where everyone in the room is judging you? I'm fairly certain, no matter what one species is, that will have had a situation like that. Family, friends, peers in your field, we've all had to go through one of these situations where the whole world rests on your shoulders. Or at least, that is what it felt like. Feeling that glaring, that judgmental eyes of all the human leaders directly on me. I'd condemned them, but not their people. This is why it should have been diplomat in my place. A scholar has no right to talk to anyone. I felt the chains of my caste pull me back from the social scandal. They'd wanted my opinion, and I gave it. Why were their eyes filled with such malice? Why did I feel like the whole room was filled with contempt for me? They knew what I asked when they asked for my input. They had no right to judge me so. My scales glared a green-orange and irritated anxiety as they whispered amongst themselves, casting side glances towards me during the brief silence of my stance of the human-villain relationship. I gave them everything that they wanted from me. I gave my opinion. What more did they want? First, the representative of Sweden has the floor, a feminine voice spoke, her voice echoing out from the primitive broadcasting device around the room. One man in the back of the well-lit circular room rose from his seat, his clothes exquisite from what I could see. His hair was the color of pure fire, and I prayed that that fire was the only cosmetic. Well, first off, before my questions, I am aware of what happened to you when you first arrived here, scholar. He spoke, his voice twinged with an accent, yet his English still understandable, even to my alien ears. It is only natural that there would be some mistrust. I don't think anyone here, aside from the truly proud amongst us, would deny you that much. In my opinion, your harsh judgment is expected, he said almost in a, was it fatherly tone? From how terrifying and imposing this large man was, his words dripped with honey, and my scales swiftly retreated from their orange hue as my irritation at their judgment seemed to fade. It was no wonder this man was considered a leader. Nevertheless, he trailed off, I find your proposal not only insulting but troubling. You come to us with ships the size of planets, guns pointed at our very home for daring to keep one of you against their will. A simple broadcast informing the public would have done more than enough to free you. But such blatant display of power was not meant to free a, pardon me if this sounds insulting, simple citizen of your people. In my opinion, and like many of my associates who I have spoken to at great length about this issue, such a display was to establish dominance to a lesser species, he scolded, eyes growing wide. Wouldn't you agree, scholar? He asked, eyebrows lifting as he expected an answer. Well, I cleared my throat. In Valan society, we are all equal, from our leaders to our nymph students, I nodded. We are uncertain what you would do if things became dire. Everyone equal, indeed. Would the humans you brought with you to God knows where say the same? He asked, a smirk travelling on his lips. Would they be equal amongst you? Or the Valan pet propaganda project let us primitive humans know just how wrong we were to abandon our people like you say? He asked. Hush, falling over the leaders, my shoulders sank, but a determined glow hit my scales. Of course, we were equal the moment we found you. You could have fooled us, was all he replied with before he raised his hand. No further questions. I hand the floor over to the next representative, he said before I could retort, taking his seat. I sighed, feeling the sting of the subtle aggression behind his honeyed words. Next representative from China has the floor. A smaller, younger man began to rise, dressed to impress same as the fiery-haired man. Black facial hair adorned his face, stylized in a manner I'd not seen previously. His youth did not mask his intelligence, for instead of contempt like I saw from many of the representatives, all I saw was study, much like a scholar. He was sizing me up, as if examining me for any potential weakness that he could exploit. Most of my concerns have been addressed by my associate. He spoke, his words accented well. They did not flow the same, his accent thick, yet the authority in his voice was just the same. Did all of these people know English? It was my understanding that many of these countries had their own individual languages and cultures. I grew confused. Why would each of these leaders know one particular language? They were leaders of their countries, correct? Why would they know the primary language of a different country? Trade relations could only go so far, right? Did they learn the language simply for trade? My scales shimmered in thought until I heard the man speak once more. "Do you know what you offer?" he asked, raising one of his eyebrows inquisitively. "Do you know what you are offering to do?" "I don't think you do. Not really. You offer is not extending a hand out of friendship, but out of fear," he said, clearing his throat. "Why would you not offer to simply build here on Earth? My associates and I welcome you in open arms. If you are so charitable to take in our less than fortunate citizens, why would you want to take them away? Why would they the only ones you permit to come with you?" he asked, causing my scales to dim in fear. "Well, I don't mean to—" "You don't not trust us," he answered for me, waving his hands dismissively. "No relationship in trade or diplomacy can be forged on lack of trust. We trusted you with your giant ships and massive guns to not destroy us. But for all of that technology you have, for all of your advancements in technology, you still don't trust us to accept your gifts with gratitude. Why? Do you truly believe that we would betray you the second that you let your guard down?" he asked, a twinge of anger in his voice as I began to shrink. "At this point in time, scholar, I don't believe your people are any kind of salvation or even needed. We do not need your kind of salvation or offer. We are better off alone if you are the best the galaxy can provide," he scoffed, sitting back down in his seat and sipping on a glass of water. "The next representative can speak." The blonde female human didn't have a chance to announce who would speak next. The leader from China had blown open the lid to their mutual concern and anger. And the next leader, a fair-skinned man with grey hair, was the first to stand up, pointing an accusatory finger towards me. "He is right," he exclaimed, sighing, shaking his head. "You do not trust us, but you want us to be a part of your galactic civilization. You want humanity as pets," he exclaimed, causing my scales to flare up, a dark red in anger. "That's not fair. You wanted my opinion, and I gave it. It is not my fault. All I saw while I was here was mutual distrust of everything and everyone. You humans only look out for yourselves, and if you don't believe me, you clearly haven't taken a look outside," I barked back, my eyes going wide at my sudden outburst. Strangely enough, the grey-haired man began to laugh at my outburst. "And you proved us wrong with that mindset, how? The giant ships in the sky, the air of superiority around you. Please do tell us, scholar. I'm dying to know," he spoke, his passive-aggressive tone only driving my anger further onward. I wished his accent was thicker so I wouldn't be able to understand him speak. My tolerance for humanity was fading swiftly. "You're right. We have flextile muscles next to your world. But aside from letting you know that we are not to be trifled with in case you decided to treat us as a whole, as you treated me when I arrived here, have we done anything wrong?" I asked. He sat back down, raising his hands. "Not yet. The only reason Germany even accepted this invitation was because, despite your blatant show of technological prowess, you haven't done anything to warrant us casting you out. You talk in here, cast judgment upon all of us, with only just meeting us this month, and then you expect all of us to submit to your whims. Scholar, that is not how progress can be made between two nations. We are not your pets, unless you bring something better to the table that is agreeable to all parties involved. I am sorry to say that humanity and your kind will remain apart." It was but one leader who refused, but from the hush drawn over the leaders, if they were even leaders, seemed all to silently agree with his statement. My opinion was unacceptable to these humans. They'd rather see the downtrodden remain as such before even suggesting that I had a point. Sure, they posed many good points, particularly the younger man with the darker skin. I didn't trust humanity. I didn't trust them at all. I feared that they would learn from us and obliterate us. Was that fear? No. Was it reasonable? Maybe. That is why we needed to simply take humans who wanted to go with us. They needed to be watched. They needed to be, My eyes went wide. My scales dark blue. No. I wanted to control them. I was so petrified of them that I feared that they would use anything we gave them as a weapon. I feared that they would destroy everything about us and kill every last person because, well, if they treated the less fortunate like dirt, how would they treat us? Good gods, I was becoming the general. More and more representatives asked questions and stated their opinion, some as angry as the leader from Germany, others quite composed and confident. Each leader was different from the last, yet I was in my own mind for most of it. I didn't listen to anyone besides the general. Did Dr. Mormheim ever ask for any technology when I was assisting? No, she just asked for my help. Did Agent Brown ever take anything from me, despite him helping me to bed when I had nanites used to save those children in my pocket? No. I didn't trust humanity at all. I didn't trust any of these primitives, and they saw right through me. Every single one. A familiar voice followed suit, pulling me out of my head as my finished answers, the representative of South Africa's questions. It became clear to me, about halfway through this trial by fire, that these were not truly the leaders of their respective countries. Rather, they were sent as ambassadors. It made sense. All of these leaders in one spot was risky. One angry citizen with a bunch of explosives would have thrown the world into chaos. They spoke on behalf of their leaders, and that was enough for me and the High Command. After all, not even they were physically present here, opting to send in eager diplomats like Skayar instead of while they simply had themselves broadcasted. Yet this voice, the one I heard before, as was based that contained it. It had only spoken to her for a few moments when I first arrived, but the aura of authority radiating from the president seemed to, somehow, despite my feeling like the scum of the galaxy, make me feel even smaller. She showed no malice or contempt towards me, only a disappointed look of a clutch mother towards her young. I was easily this woman's elder by nearly 100 years, and even still, I felt like a child. Skalan, she stated, her voice barely containing her own woes. After all, it had only been a short time since the general was imprisoned due to his actions against us. I sighed softly. This whole situation seemed to be growing further and further out of hand. I didn't mean to have anyone jailed, insulted, or even threatened. I just wanted to go home and maybe, just maybe, have a new species as a galactic friend when I returned. The likelihood of this seemed far less optimistic as it previously had been. First and foremost, as everything has happened to you happened while in my country, I extend my deepest apologies for any stress or threats to your safety. Had we known about that earlier, none of it would have happened. It was a hiccup in our intelligence, she stated, closing her eyes for a moment, gathering her thoughts. It never ceased to amaze me how humanity could just bounce back from turmoil, or at least put on a good face while suffering from it. Humanity could hide their emotions when they needed to. It was both a blessing and a curse, from how I saw it. When a Valan was upset, people would try to comfort them as best as they could. Humanity had admitted, and from what I could tell from the president's tone, they needed to hide it. There was a time and place for emotion in humanity, and it broke my heart at how little time would be spared for it. It was no wonder humans had such emotional outbursts. That being said, the fact that you cast judgment on one aspect of us you hardly understand is only insulting, but ignorant. We understand perfectly well that all Valan are equal, and there needs to be seen to. But Skalan, how many planets do you have resources to pull from? She asked, crossing her arms. How many people do you have ready to and able to help those in need? How many teachers, instructors, engineers, biologists do you have to ensure the advancement of your kind? You have nearly unlimited resources and labor to achieve your goals and species-wide philosophy that is truly, truly haunting to see. Nothing on Earth resembles that. Nothing on Earth could resemble that. We do the best with what we have, but to see the species that can create planets to travel in, what gives you the right to judge us at all? She asked, raising an eyebrow. I had no response. She really was like my clutch mother. Did I need to bring her sweets and an apology card before I could go collect Flora with my friends next? Was I, as the humans called it, grounded? All that being said, I actually have no questions for you, she stated, giving me a disappointed look, but I do have a counteroffer that I think is far more agreeable than the one you proposed. I blinked, looking around the room as more hushed whispers and even a few laughs followed her statement. Really? A counteroffer? Why would they? I began talks as soon as what you do regarding the Valan the moment your ship was reported to have arrived. We've come up with 4 possible plans of action, my colleagues and I, she stated, looking up to the monitors as the high commanders, one by one, returned, almost as if on cue. Apparently, they were growing impatient. or perhaps concerned. Whatever the case, it was a bit troubling how quick they were to return once humanity stated it had been a plan of action to counter my own. Well, look at that. If I didn't know any better, I would have said you've been listening. The President spoke, causing a soft rumble of laughter from the assembled human representatives. The High Commanders looked less than amused at a joke. We have followed your schedule provided for us, the High Commander of Scholarship stated. We're here. There you have a counter-offer. If you are all quite finished scolding the young scholar for being, dare I say it, a civilian, I am more than prepared to listen and make at least some headway so that we aren't just throwing Scholar Scalan out into the cold, she stated coldly, a twinge of orange on her scales in mild annoyance. She was the leader of my caste, no doubt quite miffed about the treatment of someone of her fold. The President seemed far less than impressed. The human leader had quite the week, and even in the face of a species that piloted ships on a planetary scale, she still stood tall. He stopped being a civilian to us the moment he arrived near our planet. Like it or not, High Command, he is one of the few people who made first contact with us. He may be a civilian, by your standards, but that is where honesty lies. It's been nothing, a back-and-forth discussion in staff rooms since we were able to contact you. Like it or not, Scalan has been among people, sick, healthy, rich, and poor, during his time here. I ask you, as a fellow leader, what opinion would you value more? A person looking through the monitor at your planet, or someone who, walked on your planet? She asked, raising an eyebrow. There was a hush that followed her words, my eyes moving up to the monitor. The High Commander of Warfare scales were a deep, brilliant orange. The High Commander of Scholarship seemed to enjoy the challenging mind before her, her scales a bright yellow. Yet, the rose hue appearing on the High Commander of Diplomacy scales seemed to throw me off. Rose. It only appeared for the briefest of moments before fading into yellow. But I saw it, as did likely every Villan in the room. Oh, I could only imagine the gossip that would follow such a sight. High Commander fancies a human leader. President McCullen knew how to make an impression, it seemed. Now, as I was saying, she began, again after the hush settled, I actually agree with Scalan. There isn't enough being done for our homeless and struggling. We just don't have the time or resources to deal with it. While I fail to see how that has anything to do with us being given a hand joining you in space, my fellow colleagues and I, as I said, have an alternative to shipping you those that would agree and bow before new masters. I beg your pardon. The High Commander of Diplomacy snapped back. I did not stutter. We're not stupid, High Commander. Just because we don't pilot planets doesn't mean that we can't see that you just want new exotic species to brighten the galaxy up a little. You want us to come with you. We'll come with you. But we're not abandoning our heritage and cultures just so that you feel a bit more comfortable with us, primitives, she scoffed, clearing her throat as the High Commanders looked at each other, scales all mutually shifting to red at scolding words. We want you to build here on Earth, she replied, looking up, suddenly catching the High Commander off guard. Excuse me? Excuse me? You insult us and then invite us to your world. The High Commander of Warfare barked. The human leader nodded. I have 13 human nations agreeing to it. That's a great start. We can do everything you want there, too. Invite any humans who's willing to participate, but no human can be left out. You want to lead us by example. Come to our home to do it. Bring your own resources, your own manpower, and your own supplies. We'll provide as much as we can to help. I completely agree that we, as a species, need to move forward and better ourselves. But we won't get there by you not trusting us, as a whole, enough to join you. You'll just be collecting pets, not embracing a new people, she said, a smile falling from her face. 13 places of study where we can learn from a species that has been here before. We aren't perfect, far from it, but we're quick studies. Give us 13 bases of operation where both humans and Villan can exchange cultures, knowledge, and technology. And I think there's still hope for us yet, said smirking. And what's to stop you humans from taking what we offer and obliterating us when you have the technological ability to do so? The High Commander of Warfare asked, leaning forwards towards the microphone. What's to stop you from using us for technology and abandoning us? What's to stop you from destroying us? Because why would we even remotely need to fight you or steal from you when there is a galaxy full of resources out there that we can learn to funnel to our own people? In a society where resources can be claimed by the planet, where no mouth will go unfed. Why would we scorn you when you helped us reach the next step of our civilization? Do you see this is some kind of game? Are you that detached from being planet-bound that you can't see what you're offering us? There isn't a soul in this room that is unwilling to work with you because you're holding the keys to space. You're holding the keys to fixing every single problem Earth has, and you're afraid we're just going to use you after helping us to get off this rock. High Commanders, none of us expect to be given what you have to offer for free, but we all expect to be given the chance to earn it. The High Commanders looked at the human leader in awe, concern, and confusion. I was stunned myself. It was a valid question to ask. Why would they need to fight us when they could, if they were running out of resources, find another planet? There were millions of them. Even after all this time my species spent as spacefaring one, we still have not exhausted any of the resources the planets we claimed provided. In fact, most of our metals came from asteroid belts. Even with how much humanity consumed, not even they could hope to make a dent in what the galaxy had to offer. The High Commander of Diplomacy chuckled, shrugging his shoulders. I like it, he stated. It allows our people to meet a new species. It allows our young to grow into better individuals, having outside perspectives. My car stands to gain a lot from this proposal. I agree, the High Commander of Warfare admitted. Having a world with such intense weather patterns and higher gravity would help better train some of our own warriors for more extreme conditions. My car stands to gain much from it. The High Commander of Scholarship seemed to gain a look of satisfaction over her face. Would you look at that? All three of us agree. It'd allow us to research humanity, perhaps find some biological common ground between us. She mused, resting her head in her palm. My car stands to gain much from this, she said, her gaze turning towards me. Thank you for your input, Scholar Scalan. You are no longer required. You may return to your home ship. Wait, what? My eyes went wide. Oh gods, I was finally going home! End of chapter. The algorithm reckons you should be watching this video next, and I recommend that you should be always watching my video. So, click with energy! And yes, clicking that does help the channel. Thank you very much. I'd just like to thank the T5 members and Patreons. Alithia, Barkey, Feudikiol, Meridian 117, Cam Maxwell, Casper Arnholtz, Albard and Guster, Lord Ashrikul, and White Van 420.